You never want to be in a place where you can never recognize a better option. You never want to enter a predicament where you cannot recognize a better option. Meaning you have your mind set on one thing so much. I have to do active duty. I have to do 20 years in the military, that you cannot recognize, hey, that's way better than what I was trying to do. That's way more efficient. That's way more effective. That's a easy decision. One thing I've reflected on in the last 12 days, and I'll go ahead and share with you. Um, it was quite simple. It was so simple. I was like, bro, why didn't I think of this earlier? My love of traveling, my love of options tends to come from my cash flow. This apartment, for one, my lease is month to month at this place, which is quite rare in nature. It's a very nice apartment. It's the nicest apartment I've ever lived in. The nicest apartment I've ever lived in. With that being said, it's constantly brought to my attention from my month to month expenses that obviously I'm paying way more over BH, which I did intentionally because when I come home, I want to come home to quality. I want to come home to sounds I can identify and animals I can identify and leaks I can identify and air conditioning that doesn't work. I didn't have time for any of that. You understand? I'm too busy. I'm too busy to deal with those issues. It's kind of like car issues. I hate car issues. When I press the button, I want the car to do what it was designed to do every time. Not 3 out of 4. Every time I want that, I'll push the button and the car responds. So, but one thing I've noticed is that when I end the month and I pay all my bills and all that, the money that's left, it's not conducive to what I've been accustomed to in terms of having options. And I'm like, am I spending more than I could be spending as it relates to the other options I would like to have? Has the apartment that I've gotten or acquired, has that ran off options that I typically have had in the past? It's not about apartment. It's about options. It's about trade-offs. It's about wisdom. What is the driving force of your happiness typically? Typically. It takes some self-awareness, some self-assessing, really the ability to look at yourself objectively, like just go outside of yourself and look back at yourself and say, what makes Ray happy typically in most cases, and not something that falls under a vice such as sugar or alcohol or drugs or what have you. We all have our vices. So we're trying to avoid the vices. We're trying to just say what makes me happy that is more or less healthy. It doesn't, end in regret, after being pursued. And so my conclusion was to lower and to eliminate any expense that does not lead or translate to happiness, if that makes sense. To eliminate any expense that does not translate to my happiness. What does it look like practically? Downgrading the apartment. Downgrading the apartment. The apartment leads or translates to my comfort. My comfort. Comfort is not happiness. Obviously, because there's two different words, but because if you look at the source, they're two different things. The stimuli is different. The stimulus is different. And so, just kind of reflecting over the last 12 days, I've realized that there are a lot of things in my life, I've had excess of, I've had surplus. When I get back to what it really means to be essentialism, to be essentialist, you realize, all right, I have too much stuff, and the stuff I have is not translating to the desired end result that I have for it. I sold 2 cameras while I was in Florida. I had too many. The purpose I bought 2 cameras for was because when I was in Alaska, I was constantly traveling between the base I was stationed at Clear Air Force Station, and then I was going to either Fairbanks or Anchorage. And I didn't like taking down my camera setup every single time. So I bought 2 of the same camera, one for travel, one for to stay in the room. Well, I no longer have that issue. So I'm like, why do I have 2 cameras? The point being is that And I'm gonna get to the comments as well. I see everybody commenting. Go ahead and drop any questions you guys have or any comments. We'll definitely get to it in a second. But yeah, that's the end result I kind of came to is you start noticing all the fluff. It's kind of like having a fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, where you just there's an overload of sugar, fructose that we don't have a reason for it. It's more or less a poison. It's not necessary. It's vestigial in nature. Remove the fluff and realize what is truly essential to my life, to my everyday being. What do I need to function?